But I want to talk about real quick. I have a person that we follow. He's called the Health Ranger, Mike Adams. And Mike Adams is on record saying that he will not be flying in any planes, especially private planes. He says that it's very easy to alter the gasoline in the private plane, you know, to make it crash. Like if you just add just a little bit of water or something like that, he says, into the gas, that it will cause your plane to stutter and die, and it will cause your plane to crash. Okay? Now, why are we talking about this? Well, remember there was another plane crash when Hillary Clinton was running for senator of New York. Yeah, I said it all right this time. Against Kennedy. And this is what happened.
John F. Kennedy Jr., he was declared the front runner for the New York Senate seat back in 1999. Days later, his plane crashed into the Atlantic Ocean, and his rival, Hillary Clinton, was elected senator.
Died in a plane crash. And she went on to win the Senate seat for New York. And now here we are, right? So I've been kind of looking at these plane crashes lately as a major suspect. So Doug Larson is a senator from South Dakota. If you guys didn't know, he's been an advocate for more testing on the mRNA vaccine. Here's Doug Larson in front of Congress just the other day talking about the mRNA vaccine, the boosters, and a story from a friend.
Pleasure of sitting down with a friend of mine who had about a year ago had died. I'd never had a chance to sit down with somebody that had been dead before, and I found it interesting when he explained that what it was like to wake up in the hospital after being dead, and the doctor coming up and shaking his hand and saying, "You are the first person that I've ever gotten to shake the hand of that had suffered from cardiac death, instant cardiac death. Not arrest, but death." They spoke for a moment, and he said, I have one question for you. And he'd asked him if he'd ever been vaccinated, specifically to the COVID piece. It was an interesting conversation to have. A year prior to that happening, he had told me that he had no sympathy for the unvaccinated. We talked about that last night, and he said, I've always reserved the right to change my mind. So I think it's a good study.
There you have it. He reserves the right to change his mind. Huh. It's very interesting stuff. So Doug Larson left that Senate meeting, went to Arizona. From Arizona was going back home and stopped in Utah. Fueled up in Utah. I'm not going to say nothing about it. And when they left, this is what happened. The state senator from North Dakota, his wife, and their two youngest children have died in a small plane crash in Utah, officials said on Monday. The plane was carrying Doug Larson and his family, crashed shortly after taking off near Moab, Utah, where the aircraft had stopped to refuel on Sunday evening. The pilot of the plane also died in the crash, police said. The Larsons were visiting family in Scottsdale, Arizona. The Grand County Sheriff's Office posted a statement on Facebook saying that they were notified about a plane going into the ground shortly after taking off from the Canyonlands airfield about 15 miles north of Moab at approximately 20:30 local time, which is 2:30. Sheriff's deputies and the Moab Fire Department and paramedics responded to the scene. Mr. Larson's death was first confirmed by North Dakota's Senate Majority Leader David Hogue in an email to his colleagues, according to the Associated Press. I'm not sure where the bereavement starts with such tragedy, but I think it starts with prayers for the grandparents, surviving stepchild of Senator Larson, the extended family of Doug and Amy. Mr. Hogue said, "Hold your family close today." The aircraft was located in a remote area bordering the airport, according to the Grand County Sheriff's Office. The media account for the National Transportation Safety Board said on X, formerly known as Twitter, that they were investigating the October 1st crash of a Piper PA-28-140 airplane near Moab, Utah. He was elected into the Senate in 2020. He's a conservative Republican. He chaired the Senate panel on industry and business legislation and also served in the North Dakota National Guard. Here's a guy who was trying to sound the alarm about the vaccines. You can believe whatever you want about his sudden plane crash. And I did explain earlier that our friend, not friend, but a person that we follow and have for quite some time, Mike Adams, the health ranger, has been very clear about these small private planes, and how they can be compromised very easily to cause death.
Following a disputed election and a tie vote, the U.S. Congress installs the most unpopular president in U.S. history as David Jefferson Adams becomes the 44th President of the United States. Shortly after the election, increased unrest, rioting, and a growing number of militias have given rise to ever-increasing domestic terrorism. In response, the President invokes the Homeland Security Act and declares martial law on the West Coast and other areas of the country. Though highly contested, a Supreme Court ruling sidesteps the electoral process, disqualifying popular presidential candidates from several states. Public outrage explodes when a sham election leads to incumbent David Adams accepting a second term in office. During the 57th Inauguration Day ceremonies, Washington, D.C. is struck by a low-yield nuclear weapon, killing David Adams and most of the U.S. Congress. The destruction of Washington, D.C. effectively breaks the chain of succession, sending the nation into chaos. In an emergency vote, the European Union deploys peacekeepers in the greater D.C. area to secure international interests. With separatist sentiment rising, California's governor declares home rule and secedes from the Union. Texas follows quickly and declares sovereignty, taking neighboring states with them and forming the Republic of Texas. Now, the once United States of America lie in ruin. The time for words has passed, and a second American Civil War now erupts as 7 factions wage war across the land. They battle one another to reclaim a nation, to restore peace, to rebuild this shattered union.